Hey, Read Through the Word. Today is October 23rd, and today's lesson is called The King's Inspection. And I am all about some fall. See, my mom gave me these earrings. I think it's an acorn and some leaves and stuff. And then look, y'all. Okay. Got to be about the seasons. All right. So we are in one verse today. And I was reading, trying to decide what I was going to do. Now, I'm trying to think. I think I've got all the way through November planned. I'm like going ahead and since I will be done with Read Through the Word by the end of December. And then Wendy's taking everything to YouTube and to social media accounts. So make sure you're following because that's where everything will be moving and whatever. But all of our, for right now, as she keeps telling you in the lives and the videos, the quick word from Wendy, that new content will be for right now pausing. And all of our past 15 years will be available on YouTube. I think the information's in the Facebook group, and it's also in at least the last week of September, the quick word from Wendy videos. I think it's like the 24th or 25th are the videos that sort of start explaining everything. And so I've been trying to plan out, I've got a lot going on, so I'm trying to get everything in order so I can get everything done. And so I've been looking, as I've told you, if there's something you're really wanting me to handle, let me know, and I'll put it in there. But I had skipped this day because I couldn't quite decide until right over the last couple of days where I sat down and was like, I've got to get a lesson done. Trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I'm reading back through for, I think, the 50th time. Going, okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to teach. And usually, like I've told you before, the Holy Spirit guides me in that I go, I wonder what that's about. So that's what I did. Today's lesson is on Mark 11:11. It says, so Jesus came to Jerusalem and went into the temple. After looking around carefully at everything, he left, because it was late in the afternoon. Then he returned to Bethany with the 12 disciples. So, let's catch up to what else was going on for the day. Because I think I've taught this, Jesus weeping over Jerusalem. I taught that in 2023. But this is like Passion Week. And Jesus has deliberately entered Jerusalem in a way that fulfills prophecy from Zechariah, riding on the donkey's colt. And this like public declaration of that he is Messiah, he is King. Behold, your King comes riding on the colt of a donkey, is what Zechariah says. So here comes the King. The King has entered. The crowds confirm this identity by saying, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. So, the first place, so the king enters, if you have watched The Chosen, whether you feel they do a really good job. I've still hadn't brought myself to go back and, finish everything in this last season. We went to the movie theaters to see that we were on, I think it was during our spring break. We went to the movies to see, and we saw it was the episode with the triumphal entry and the cleansing of the temple. And it really did help. It just helped me get a visual to some things. And And so it's very interesting that the first place the king goes is not to the Roman fortress. It's not to the political palace, but to the temple. The spiritual heart of the nation and the place where God's presence was supposed to dwell. Well, and it's not been there for quite some time. And so this is Christ staking his claim, I am king. Basically, this is his palace. I am king. And here he is. So by entering as king and going directly to the temple, Jesus asserts his ultimate authority as the Son of God, who has the right to judge the function and the purity of his own Father's house, because that judgment is coming. He entered the temple and looked around carefully at everything. Okay, here's your nerd. Looked around carefully. The Greek word is paraplebo. This implies more than a quick glance. It denotes a searching, intense scrutiny, a patient, comprehensive survey of the entire scene. This is the Lord of the temple inspecting the state of worship, the marketplace, and the hearts of the religious leaders and the merchants. This is the fulfillment of Malachi 3:1. The Lord whom you seek will suddenly come into his temple. The messenger of the covenant in whom you delight, behold, he is coming. Jesus doesn't need to ask questions. As God, he sees, he looks, and he sees idolatry, he sees corruption, and he sees the greed that has turned his house into a den of robbers. And then it stops. It says, so the last part of that verse. And then it says, he left because it was late in the afternoon. And he returned to Bethany with the 12 disciples. The king is surveying the damage. He knows the verdict, but he's holding on to judgment till the next morning. He sees the full extent of the desecration. He gathers his thoughts, and he's going to execute his judgment with maximum impact the following day. Mark, in his gospel, is emphasizing that Jesus is a king whose authority is based on spiritual truth and holiness, not impulsive reaction. He is sovereign over time, over space, and over the temple itself. The most important lesson of Mark 11:11, this one verse that ties together the triumphal entry and the cleansing of the temple the next day, is that Jesus, as king and judge, is always performing an inspection. Just as he carefully examined the corrupted physical temple, he constantly examines the spiritual temple, our hearts, and the church. My pastor started a sermon series, I told y'all, the first week in October, through the, we're going through the entire book of Romans, verse by verse, Revelation, verse by verse. And so he did an introduction into the book of Revelation the first week. Last week he did the church at Ephesus. And this week he did the church at Smyrna. And this idea of inspecting the church. And he made the point that Ephesus was so far gone that Jesus said he would remove his lampstand. He made a really good point about this, because he talked about that he said the church at Smyrna is still there. As far as it's in modern day Turkey, they're more of an underground type of church. But the church, he said, the church of Ephesus isn't there. And he said, so far gone that Ephesus isn't there. So God removed the church by removing Ephesus. And made a really good point about the inspection. Jesus expects the church to be who we're supposed to be. Bold and standing for truth. And not forgetting our first love. What Jesus saw, here's the corruption that Jesus saw, was the elevation of profit over piety, which is the money changers, and exclusion over worship, blocking the Gentiles' course. So this says, is my temple, my life, or my church a place dedicated to God's glory? Not our glory, what man's glory, not let's get this place bigger. It is to God's glory and God's mission. Or is it filled full of self-serving transactions and spiritual idolatry? Mark 11:11 reminds us that Christ's inspection is silent, thorough, and leads to necessary action. We cannot hide the corruption in our lives from a sovereign king. This is the thought that really scares me. And I know I'm not supposed to be scared, but it scares me. That every thought, word, and deed not only is open before the Lord, but one day He will remind me of all of those and hold me to account. That's separate from my salvation. So I must constantly allow the Lord to cleanse His house, me, so that when He comes, He finds my heart and my local church dedicated to worship and prayer, not personal profit and not pride. To live remembering this truth. Every thought, word, and deed is open before the Lord. See you next time on Read Through the Word.